There have been a lot of reports, a lot of rumors that Kathleen Kennedy may finally be gone from Lucasfilm. If a Star Wars fan from Saudi Arabia is willing to pay $8 billion for a product that Disney paid $4 billion for, that makes me think that obviously there is, let's just say, some desperation out there to fix the products that Kathleen Kennedy has screwed up, hence the reason why we are here having this conversation. Guys, what's up? John Claymore here. Now, before we get started, I want you to know right now that this right here is mostly rumors, speculation, and of course, there's been a lot of reports coming in from a lot of content creators about this, and of course, a lot of articles on the internet about Kathleen Kennedy officially being fired or being let go, but I haven't heard anything come out yet. But then again, though, seeing how Disney's head of diversity, equity, and inclusion is gone, and of course, they claim that it was a mutual let go, when I'm pretty sure we all know that when you actually look into it, it's more than likely that she was fired. You got to think maybe these rumors may have some validity, but then again, though, I would not hold my breath. Now, guys, in this video right here, we're going to talk about these rumors. We're going to talk about the word that's been being kicked around, the reasons why this rumor may be true, which, by the way, we all know the real reasons why. She is single-handedly found a way to ruin Lucasfilms for good. Of course, the last one was Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny, which, as I said in my initial take, was meh at best, but also at the same time quite irritating and not exactly the way you would want someone like Indiana Jones to go out. And of course, I'm just being nice when I say this, but if I want to be real with you, after thinking about it more and more and more, it gets worse and worse and worse every time that I actually think about it, all the directions that it could have gone. Of course, especially given the fact that you had this guy, I don't know, who played Short Round, who recently won an Academy Award, who quite frankly could have been using this, or the fact that you probably could have gone a different direction even with the script that you had. And apparently this film did, in fact, have a lot of different endings to it that got reshot on multiple occasions. But don't worry, we will get to that a little bit further on the video. This right here will be a relatively lengthy one, so go ahead and grab yourself a drink, stick around, and let's go ahead and have a conversation about this. So, right now, the rumors is that Kathleen Kennedy is, let's just say that she has displeased the boss, Bob Iger. She has been displeasing. I have no idea how the hell you cannot be displeased with Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, especially after the disaster, which was, I thought The Force Awakens wasn't that great, but of course, The Last Jedi was probably the biggest disaster of all the films that she touched. Obviously, this whole the Force is female stuff, this whole feminism thing has been exactly what the hell has actually brought Disney down. Given the rest of the wokeness, given the fact that Marvel itself has put out a lot of very, very underwhelming products as of late, and given the box office on Indiana Jones 5, I would say that, yeah, Disney is about to, let's just say that the loss of money is going to be a lot worse than we thought, especially given what I talked about earlier today in my video about Stephen A. Smith and, of course, ESPN, because obviously Disney does, in fact, own ESPN. So 7,000 people getting laid off and a lot of very big personalities. And now that Disney has had another box office flop, a film that, quite frankly, you could not get wrong to save your life. But then again, though, there is The Kingdom of Crystal Skull, which, by the way, was nowhere near as bad as this abortion here. But then again, though, I will digress. So, who was it? Who was it that actually called this? Who was it that said this? Who was it that said that this film was going to suck for a while? Well, that person would be Overlord DVD, Doomcock.
Twitter retweeted over and over again, hashtag Doomcock was right. This is clearly a film that has been extensively reshot. In terms of tone and style, there are at least 3 different movies pieced together in here, with an ending clearly reshot this year, just a few months ago, that feels totally tacked on. My friends, I broke the rumor years ago that Indy 5 involved time travel. I was the first to break that news, and 2 months after my video, the Daily Mail published leaked set photos proving the time travel angle. The basic narrative was something I leaked in those first reports, the fact that it's set in the 60s, that Indy's college has an ancient relic in their collection that it turns out has time travel capabilities, the Germans come looking to steal it, and the scene I described in the stacks unfolds pretty much exactly as I reported. I reported on a ton of reshoots, of scrapbooking, of multiple endings, all of which tested badly with audiences, John Williams.
And while I'm on this, I need to go ahead and say this. Kathleen Kennedy has single-handedly destroyed Star Wars, and she has single-handedly destroyed Indiana Jones. Disney as a whole is not, how do I say, it's not worth watching, and that's the reason why Disney is in this situation. Nothing that they put out is even worth it because of its actual reputation, Kathleen Kennedy being a very, very big part of it, especially given the fact that she's got writing credits and producer credits on all the original Indiana Jones films. You figure she would know something about this character and she would not destroy it like the way she was able to pull off. But then again, though, at the same time, though, this is Kathleen Kennedy, so we should not be surprised. Let me say one last thing, though, before we move on to the next part. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Indiana Jones. Three very masculine figures, three very, very popular figures, three figures in film that men could look up to, and yet she found a way to completely annihilate these three characters, which I personally believe was exactly what she wanted to do, because it's pretty obvious that this woman has a secret hatred for men, not the good old-fashioned girl power type of thing, which, by the way, you'll hear me mention more towards the end of the video. This right here is pushing radical feminism at a level that, quite frankly, is completely unsustainable. I just figured I'd go ahead and throw that out there before we get to the next part. Doomcock was right. Doomcock had all of the leaks like 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago, and of course there have been several times where apparently Harrison Ford, George Lucas, others had actually mentioned that this film, they basically gave you a heads up a long time ago that this film was probably not going to be good, but don't worry, we'll talk more about how it is that I think that Kathleen Kennedy views these franchises, especially given the fact that she even worked with George Lucas on previous films, not to mention the fact that George Lucas's ex-wife did not like the product, that right there being The Force Awakens, and that right there probably sort of foreshadowed the products to come. Now, guys, I did not like the idea from the start of remaking or doing any more Star Wars films or anything of that nature there, especially if George Lucas was not involved. I mean, it is his product, and while I'm not the biggest fan of George Lucas's views, I definitely love his films. Indiana Jones, probably my favorite of the entire whole shebang bang. Which is really funny, too, because I had some guy leave a remark in the previous video that I did. I said that maybe the character that Indy should be working with should connect back to Marcus Brody. And they got upset and said, well, you obviously didn't watch the franchise or watch any of the movies, or else you would have known that Marcus Brody was dead. Yes, I knew that Marcus Brody's character, for the most part, was mentioned that he was dead in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But at the same time, though, I said character that connects back to Marcus, maybe a distant relative, something like that there. Obviously, the person watching the video was not paying very, very close attention to that, but never mind. There are people like that. Just take them like with a grain of salt. According to Doomcock, apparently there were like different versions of this film. It was basically three films or three different visions in one. Of course, one of them being James Mangold wanted to go down the direction of the film Logan, which, by the way, he directed, where basically Indy would be just this sad old man. It would just continue to get worse and worse and worse. Maybe he goes on an adventure and maybe he eventually dies. Kathleen Kennedy decides to step in there and put some other crap out there, like, say, Helena Shaw, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, which, quite frankly, was completely annoying. By the way, there is a way you could have fixed this even with her in the actual film. You see, after everything has been such a slog, there is one thing that you could give the people, which is a good old-fashioned cathartic release, which, by the way, would cover up a lot of this or give some form of happiness to the audience. Why not just make the woman a villain who turns on Indy at the very end, but Indy is able to survive it, and she gets thrown down the, I don't know, like the pit of souls or some crap like that to go along with the Nazis? I'm pretty sure that right there would have been a pretty good cathartic release, but don't worry, we'll talk about that more towards the end. But then you get to the topic of money. You get to the topic that a lot of people have, for whatever reason, are not seeing what's going on here, and that right there, of course, being ESPN. The recent layoffs, the fact that Stephen A. Smith, he came out yesterday in the video I spoke about earlier today. I'll leave it in the description box because obviously, as I've said before, and many people already know, ESPN is owned by Disney, so obviously they're getting rid of contracts because they're expecting some type of financial loss. Well, I think that financial loss is going to be a lot bigger after this film, as you guys will see here from Mr. Eric D. July. This is the first part of this. I will leave the full video in the description box, but pay very close attention.
Come on, Indiana Jones is one of the reasons why Disney shelled out $4 billion for Lucasfilm. Global start here at $130 million is $10 million less than what we were seeing. The projections weren't even enough. If the projections had been right, they still would have goddamn lost money. Now, they haven't even hit them internationally. And They're done. The fan-loathed Indiana Jones and Crystal Skull had a $272.1 million global start unadjusted. That's unadjusted for inflation. So that was a global start at $272.1 million. And yet they are starting as of right now today at $130 million. They're not getting anything goddamn close to 272, which is what, again, Crystal Skull had. Not only did Star Wars bomb Solo open higher than Dial of Destiny, and Solo lost money, if I'm not mistaken, with 84.4 million on a 3-day, 4-day. But so did Paramount's 7th cool Transformers Rise of the Beast. Yesterday, I learned from a key source that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny before $100 million is estimated. P&A cost a mind-boggling $300 million plus. So this is the point that I was making. And this is folks that have been on our pocket in our corner of the internet have been making. That this shit costs more than what they were even leading us to believe with. Okay? These guys are going to lose money, and a lot of it. And even if in the odd chance, which is not going to happen with this movie, but it does with some others, even in the odd chance that it made in the green, I don't know, $30 million. Guys, that's a loss. You do not sink.
And we have not gotten to the second weekend. The second weekend is going to be this weekend here. And this film does not have good word of mouth. That means that people are not telling their friends that the film is good. If they're saying anything, it's probably not a comment at all, or maybe it was meh, or man, it was annoying. Look, films need some form of good word of mouth. Let me put this on you really quick. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and I let my feelings known about that film there. I was not the biggest fan of that film. However, it was definitely better than the other crap that Marvel had put out. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was able to make a lot of money. It was able to recoup whatever money that it could have lost, but it actually succeeded in that realm. A lot of that was because it did, in fact, have good word of mouth. Some people liked it, some people did not. It was definitely the most polarizing of the three films. Yes, I preferred the second one. I thought the second was actually better, and I get made fun of it all the time, but we'll just keep going. The thing is this right here. Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny does not have good word of mouth. Star Wars, The Last Jedi did not have good word of mouth. I don't even think that any of the Star Wars films had good word of mouth. Or, I mean, at least the sequel trilogy did not. The original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, obviously they did. But then again, though, when the prequel trilogy came out, the internet was very, very much in its infancy, which, by the way, is one of the things that Kathleen Kennedy claims is the reason why this film did not do very well, is because, well, there were people, YouTubers out there who were complaining and leaking the actual story of the film. I hate to tell you this, but due to the internet, you may want to produce a much, much better product, which, by the way, leads me to the next point, which is going to be made right here with this next clip.
That's a loss. You do not sink $300 million into a project over the course of several years to only make 30. That's not how it works. These guys are in trouble. Access Media are starting to understand that. But here's the thing and the take that I want to have here. Okay, so they just took an L there. They have been taking L's back to back, elementals. Okay, we've seen the decline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Secret, whatever. That's not making any money because they're not making money from Disney Plus. They've been losing billions of dollars each quarter. Okay, parks are stagnating, which is where the moneymaker was. So you have several box office flops, and your parks are not doing like you'd want them to do. It's getting very competitive with Universal, at least in the Florida sense. This is not a sustainable practice. So they have some decisions to make over there at Disney, because at this trajectory, these guys are going to be done, filing for bankruptcy. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. But more so, what's more realistic to me is that they're going to trim a lot of fat. We've seen a lot of layoffs. They're going to continue to do that. They have to rein in these damn budgets. These budgets have been unreal. They have been spending a lot of money to make Jack Diddley.
Eric DeJuly and Razor Fist both have been saying for a very long time that this type of model that Disney has is not sustainable. If you keep putting crap films out one after the other, people will automatically assume that the film that's coming out is going to be crap. Let's go back in time really quick. I remember when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out. I had just gotten out of the Marine Corps. My father, who by the way is the one who really introduced me to the internet and to the Indiana Jones series when I was a kid, he loved it. He thought it was absolutely hilarious, especially at the very, very beginning. A lot of critics did not like that film. I was kind of on the fence about it, but basically what happened is that I went back and rewatched that film, and I was like, you know what? The worst part of that film, if anything, was the action sequence with Shia LaBeouf right there towards the end, where it just felt like it was all CGI. It felt a little bit too fake and a little bit too comedic, and I thought that may have been the thing that ruined that film. This film right here suffers mostly from a very, very bad story and very, let's just say, quite irritating characters like Helena Shaw, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. The fact that Indy is practically a passenger in his own adventure rather than being the lead element in the adventure is something that turns off a lot of people. We are going back to the whole wokeness thing, which, by the way, I said in the previous video that I thought was more feministic than it was woke. Don't worry, I'll explain that in a second. Which now leads me to the topic of Kathleen Kennedy herself. Now that we've already got all the complaints about the film's outlook, Kathleen Kennedy has single-handedly destroyed Star Wars, completely emasculated Luke Skywalker. In a lot of ways, she emasculated Han Solo. I'm actually surprised that Harrison Ford even agreed to work with her again. Then again, though, at the same time, though, these two have known each other for a very long time. Kathleen Kennedy actually worked on, I think it was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and I want to say it was also Temple of Doom. She worked with George Lucas on those films. So you would figure that she would have some form of respect for this product, but apparently not. Guys, I got this next part from Endymion. Endymion is a channel that is a pretty good channel. I'm going to leave the full video in the description box as well. I want you guys to pay very, very close attention to this next little bit because I think it's extremely telling, especially given this right here being the last Indiana Jones film of what you're about to see here.
Spielberg himself, while Kathleen Kennedy stood amongst these industry titans. And the following happened during the live performance, so please watch.
There are three indispensable people without whom none of us would be here tonight, and that starts with the person who created Indiana Jones, George Lucas. The person who is Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford. And the person who is the glue to all five of these films that gave us all of our rhythm and all of our melody, the great maestro, John Williams.
And as you just heard, Steven Spielberg went ahead and publicly acknowledged all the people who were instrumental in making Indiana Jones into a blockbuster franchise. But hilariously, Spielberg doesn't mention Kathleen's name during this, and apparently this public humiliation drove KK into a rage. The fact you can see the disappointment on KK's face when Spielberg said what he said is just so delicious.
That's a woman who's pissed off. That's a woman who's upset. That's a woman that recently, according to all the rumors, if you believe them, I take them mostly with a grain of salt, but then again, though, given all the smoke, it sounds like there's a little bit of fire. That's the same type of woman who is blaming the failure of this last film on YouTubers, because YouTubers were going ahead and giving out the script leaks and going ahead and explaining the story. Look, let me say something to you right quick. Even if a story sounds bad on the surface, or when you first hear it, if you go in there and watch the film, especially if you did like I did as a means to an end, it's very, very possible you may be able to find something that's salvageable out of it. I just said a while ago that what you could have done, if you really and truly wanted to, not break the whole mold of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, is that what you could have done was you could have had her play as, I don't know, the person who's playing Indiana Jones like she did in the film, but yet reveal herself to be an actual true villain at the very, very end of the film. Something happens. Eventually, maybe the cave collapses, something like that there at the very end. Typical Indiana Jones adventures. They all get bogged down there. Everybody dies except for Indiana Jones. He gets out. I think that people could have gotten somewhat of a cathartic release there. But then again, though, this is Kathleen Kennedy's product, so therefore cathartic releases will not. You could have done a good old-fashioned father and son adventure. You didn't need to kill Mud off, a la the exact same thing, which, by the way, is what George Lucas intended it to be, which, by the way, is the reason why he made Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, so that way it would be a father and son adventure. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull had a lot of problems, and this film right here is obviously not made anywhere near the amount of money that Kingdom of Crystal Skull did. I mean, as Eric D. July explained earlier, even if you net a little bit of cash off this, it's not going to be enough to cover the residuals. The film's got a very, very bad word of mouth. Kathleen Kennedy has obviously ruined every single product that George Lucas put out. There's also this whole thing about Willow not being good. There was also this girl here that was also fired as well. It just makes you wonder if she's not about to get tossed out the door. Which brings me to my final point. Now, guys, I was born in the mid-'80s. I came up through the 90s, and I remember this band called the Spice Girls. Now, bear with me really quick. One of the things that the Spice Girls used to say is girl power. But I don't think those girls were ever like lesbians or man-hating chicks. As a matter of fact, I think every single one of them, with the exception of one of them, was actually straight. The reason why I bring them up is that it's okay to say something like, if you're a girl, to be proud to be a girl. Obviously, you should embrace your femininity, at least as far as actually being a woman. But there's a difference between being feminine and being a radical feminist. I don't know if Kathleen Kennedy personally is a radical feminist, but I definitely know she's pushed the radical feminist line, the whole girl boss, the whole slay queen line, to the point where it's absolutely cringe. I look at the pattern of these male leads. I look at the fact that Han Solo was basically a bitter old man before he got killed. I look at the fact that Luke Skywalker was a bitter old man before he got killed. I look at the fact that Harrison Ford's character, Indiana Jones, was sad, broken down, and basically being made to not be in charge of his own adventure. I look at that and I think to myself that she's obviously got an issue with men. She's got an issue with male characters. It makes you think if it's more agenda than it is her, but at the same time, they're probably both the exact same when you actually sit back and think on it. Kathleen Kennedy worked with George Lucas on these films for years in the 1980s. Believe it or not, she's got production credits, all that stuff. She's worked with Steven Spielberg, obviously, and she's been around the business for a while. If you could not have the least bit of respect for this character or any of the characters that George Lucas created or developed, then obviously you've got a serious issue with men as a whole. Which makes you wonder how the hell somebody could hold that in for close to 40 years and put together a product like this. Have absolutely no respect for the actual source material, have no respect for the character himself. And you wonder why it is that Disney is in trouble. Disney, in a lot of ways, they've been in trouble a lot longer than what's been going on with Kathleen Kennedy since she came around. But the fact of the matter is that she came in and made matters worse. Maybe that right there is the reason why you've got a guy from Saudi Arabia who's looking to pay $8 billion for a product that Disney paid $4 billion for. And actual Star Wars fans trying to buy Lucasfilm, actually trying to buy this product so that way he can fix this crap. And you know what? I hope he does. I hope he does, because if a guy from Saudi Arabia is buying it and they're an actual Star Wars fan, they actually want to fix things. Just know that the messaging is going to be a lot more based and not so freaking woke. So you ask me if I believe the rumors are true or if the speculation is warranted. I believe the speculation is warranted. However, I'm not going to hold my breath on the news of her being fired because, as we all know, Disney has gotten very, very political, and right now they're very, very much at the end of their rope. I think it depends on how big the loss is financially before they finally make a decision whether to cut this person or not cut this person. Guys, that is going to be all for tonight. I am not going to be posting any more content outside of this one right here tomorrow. The reason why is because people are coming to the house tomorrow to clean it up, get it looking very, very nice. Obviously, the office is set up, but there was one more thing that needed to be taken care of. I would expect me to go back to my normal posting probably on Friday or the weekend where I post 2 to 3 videos a day. And, of course, there's going to be some updates in those videos because, obviously, I've now got the equipment to start doing the video essays that I wanted. However, the problem is that I don't know if I'm just going to create another channel or if I'm just going to go ahead and start posting them now. I'll probably do what I originally planned to do, try to put one out one or every 2 weeks. now that I've actually got the stuff to actually do it with and keep posting like I am now and eventually phase into that. I'm not sure yet, but make sure you guys stick around for that. Guys, if you like this content, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. If you feel that I have earned your subscription, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications bell, sound off in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts, and I'll see you guys later.